When Pokemon Sun and Moon released, a lot of players had difficulties with a brand new type of boss battle at the time, the Totem Pokemon. They are basically regular Pokemon with enlarged models that get a stat boost at the start of the battle, and they can call allies to help them out, making the fight a 2v1. Some of these totems were laughably dumb. Others were a roadblock on players' adventures. I want to prove with this video that the totem fights can be trivial with the correct Pokemon by figuring out the easiest and most effortless way to one-shot each totem on the first turn. Before I start, let me make some things clear. I can only use Pokemon that are legally obtainable. So, for example, I can't use a Stuffle for the first totem fight, since it's not available at that point in the game yet. I can't trade with other games. Island scan is allowed. I'll make use of EV training, but only if it's necessary. Z moves are allowed. I will integrate level caps based on the totem's level. It would be too easy otherwise, wouldn't it? The chance to one-shot needs to be guaranteed. Even if there's a Pokemon that has a 99 chance to OHKO, I will not count it. But I may mention notable calcs I found. And finally, any resources I've used will be linked in the description. Speaking of resources, I want to give a special shout out to the Pokemon 3DS speedrunning community on Discord. This video would have been a lot more difficult to make if it weren't for their documentation. They helped me immensely. So pay them a visit if you're interested in Pokemon speedruns. Their Discord invite will also be available in the description. Now, let's start with Pokemon Moon. There is only one totem fight that's different between the two versions, which is luckily the first one. This means I only have to spend an extra hour or so to reach the totem Pokemon. I start with Alolan Raticating Pokemon Moon since it's the easiest totem to defeat, thanks to its quadruple weakness to fighting. I finish the hand-holdy and dialogue-heavy tutorial at 1000% speed on my emulator and catch myself a Makuhita, Crabrawler and Mankey. I also trade a Sparrow for Machop with an NPC, all before the first island trial. A hint for Nuzlockers. Makuhita is a guaranteed encounter in the first Wrestling Grass you encounter. The 4 fighting types I have with me need to reach a few requirements. Don't worry though, there's no need to grind. The victory over the first totem is basically given away for free. There are a lot of Pokemon that can learn Brick Break. There's a big chance that the player has something in their party that can severely damage the defense-boosted Alolan Raticate. But I'm not looking for severe damage, I want his thing gone in one hit. Machop, Crabrawler and Mankey can reach 21 attack at level 12, even if they have 0 IVs in attack and a nature that lowers attack. Makuhita only has 60 base attack, so it will either need an attack increasing nature or decent IVs. The results for Alolan Raticate were rather unsurprising to me. Gumshoos will be a bit more difficult without the quad weakness. I'll continue my adventure on Pokemon Sun for one reason you'll see later on. I play through the tutorial again at extreme speed and get myself a guaranteed Makuhita. I mentioned earlier that Makuhita has a low base attack stat compared to the other available fighting types, but it has an ability that none of the others have. Guts. This basically means that Makuhita's attack stat at that moment is increased by 50% if it's inflicted with a status condition. I have 2 versions of Makuhita for the Gumshoos fight. Both of them have an adamant nature, the Guts ability, the poisoned status and 2 offensive moves. Brick Break and Arm Thrust. The first Makuhita has an attack stat of 26 and uses Arm Thrust to one-shot the Gumshoos. This method requires quite a bit of EV training and you're not even guaranteed to get the 5 hits from Arm Thrust, so it's an unreliable method. The second Makuhita sports 28 attack, but this one attacks with Brick Break. This method is reliable, but requires so much EV training that your Makuhita will probably go beyond level 12 before it reaches 28 attack. Machop would be a better candidate for this fight, since it's another Guts user, but the one you get from the trade has the No Guard ability, so it's useless to us. A wild one is only available after defeating the first Kahuna. There doesn't seem to be a Pokemon that has more power than a Guts boosted Makuhita, so I have to deal with either an unreliable method or a guaranteed grindy one. I do have to mention that the Arm Thrust method has a chance to deal critical damage on every hit, which not only does more damage, but also ignores the defense boost. Makuhita with Brick Break is the go-to strategy for this Totem Pokemon, but depending on the nature and IVs, a lot of EV training is needed for this to work. It might be quite annoying to meet the requirements, but it can be done, so I will count it as a successful one-shot. The next Totem Pokemon is Wishiwashi. I have acquired 2 Z Crystals at this point, but they are not super effective against this Totem Pokemon. There's also nothing at level 20 that has enough raw power to OHKO with Breakneck Blitz or all-out pummeling, thanks to Wishiwashi's defense boost. I had to resort to something a bit more creative. The result will shock you. Pikachu was a solution. Wishiwashi is almost 3 times slower than Pikachu, which means that the naturally learned Electro Ball has a base power of 120 against Wishiwashi, when Pikachu has at least 51 speed. Since the item won't be filled with a Z Crystal, I have the option to equip Pikachu with a Light Ball, which can be acquired from Wild Pikachu. They can only be encountered in SOS battles where Pichus call for help. With the Light Ball held, a level 20 Pikachu at its lowest possible special attack can one-shot Wishiwashi, as long as Pikachu has 51 speed. Depending on the nature and IVs, it may be required to EV train in speed, but absolutely not to the extent of Makuhita from the previous trial. The 4th totem in this video is Salazzle. She doesn't have amazing bulk, but can be slightly annoying with her high speed and special attack. She gets a boost in her special defense, but as you will see, it won't help out too much. I have just acquired the Waterium Z, so this is the first time I can use the Nuke button. Game Freak also made the TM for Scald available during the previous trial, which turns into a 160 BP Hydro Vortex. It's basically a slightly stronger Hydro Cannon, which is insanely overpowered to use at level 22. After doing some calculations, I concluded that water-typed special attackers need at least 66 special attack to one-shot the Totem Salazzle. I have 3 of them: Wishiwashi, Araquanid and Brionne. The first 2 are obtained from Brooklet Hill, where the water trial takes place. Wishiwashi is probably the best one to use because of its high stats. The other 2 don't actually need to reach 66 special attack, since their ability boosts the power of water-type moves. Araquanid has the Water Bubble ability, which doubles the damage of water-type attacks. This basically halves the required special attack and brings it down to a minimum of 33. Brionne gets a boost that's not as powerful with the Torrent ability. If we let the Magmar damage Brionne a bit until it reaches 1/3 of its HP, Torrent will activate and brings the minimum required special attack down to 44, effectively giving it a 50% damage boost. Of course, there are also Pokemon that make great use of Salazzle's quadruple weakness to ground. Cubone can be caught near the volcano where the trial takes place. It can use Bone Meringue to quickly take out the Totem Pokemon, but it's not 100% accurate. Though if you manage to find a Thick Club from a wild Cubone, you can double its attack stat and take Salazzle out with Bone Club in one hit. I prefer to use Mudbray from Route 4 to land a perfectly accurate Bulldoze that one-shots the Salazzle. It does need at least 45 attack without a health item. Soft Sand from Wild Diglett can boost the damage if necessary. When I was researching the totems, the one that got talked about the most alongside Mimikyu was the level 24 Lurantis. According to the community, this is one of the most difficult totem Pokemon to fight. It gets a boost that sharply increases its speed, and it has a power herb to instantly deal a ton of damage with Solar Blade. Luckily, the Pokemon we are about to use is Magmar, so it won't get one-shot by Lurantis. You can find Magby in the volcano area and let it SOS call a Magmar, another rare catch to add onto the list. I also got the Firium Z from the previous trial to boost Magmar's Flame Burst attack to a 140 BP Inferno Overdrive. The only important bit here is that Magmar needs at least 62 special attack, which is very easy to reach. Once that requirement is met, it's a free win. I will also cover Nihilego quickly. It's not a totem Pokemon, but it's basically the same mechanics without the SOS calls. Nihilego has a quadruple weakness to ground, just like the Salazzle totem. But that's actually not the best strategy. I found something that ends the battle faster than going for the one-shot: the run button. The next real totem in line is Vikavolt. This one is quite easy to fight in a normal playthrough, despite having an Omni boost. Finding a guaranteed one-shot was a lot more difficult than actually fighting it normally though. It has an Okaberry equipped, making fire types useless for my objective. That leaves only one weakness against rock types. I found only one Pokemon that can quickly get rid of this pesky bug. Boulder is the one who's able to OHKO Vikavolt with the newly acquired Rocky MZ. This turns its Rock Slide into Continental Crush with 150 BP. Boulder can only learn Rock Slide before the level cap of 29 as a Rock'n'Rolla, so I had to make sure not to evolve it too early. Sadly, because of Vikavolt's high and boosted stats, EV training is required to guarantee an OHKO. Poképelago is available at this point in the game though. EV training can be done passively with it. Boulder at the level cap needs 31 IVs and 252 EVs in attack to reach an attack stat of 102. This is the maximum amount of attack it can have at level 29. I stated earlier that I don't do trait evolutions, but if a Gigalith faced off against the Totem Vikavolt, it would only need 93 attack with Sandstream or 102 attack without it. This guy reaches the same attack as its pre-evolution without needing to EV train. That's just crazy. I recently did a poll on my channel to ask you guys what the most difficult totem Pokemon is in these games. Unsurprisingly, the level 33 Mimikyu came out on top by a wide margin. Let's get straight to the point as to why it's so difficult. Disguise and the Omni Boost. Disguise is incredibly annoying to work around. Under normal circumstances, Mimikyu will take a hit without losing HP, deal tons of damage, and summon an ally to help out on top of it. There are only two ways to defeat Mimikyu on turn 1, a Pokemon with Skill Link and a strong multi-hit move, or a Pokemon with Molt Breaker to ignore abilities when attacking. I first looked at the Skill Link users, but they were quite disappointing. Toucannon and Cloyster are not strong enough to take out Mimikyu with the 4 hits after Disguise is dropped. I also found out that the strongest beat-up user at this point in the game is Wishiwashi. But even with black glasses equipped, 5 Rampardoses in the back and maxed out attack, it only deals 60% damage. Then that leaves the only Molt Breaker user that has potential, which is Pangoro. It learns Bullet Punch when evolved from Pamcha. Oh, wait, it gets one-shot by Mimikyu? Well, I got beaten at my own game. There's nothing else that can defeat Bulbapedia. What are you doing here? Yeah, I know Rampardos has Molt Breaker, but it has nothing to one-shot a Mimikyu with. Huh? Chain breeding? What the fuck is that? Oh boy, this is gonna be complicated. I'm so lucky that Bulbapedia helped me out here by explaining chain breeding. I originally thought that Rampardos could only learn Iron Tail by breeding with the unavailable Aron line. After digging a bit, I accidentally came across Island Scan, something I completely forgot about. Remember that I'm playing on an emulator? Luckily, I can make use of the QR scanner by uploading PNG images of QR codes into the emulator to charge up the Island Scan. Apparently, I can get an Exu with Iron Tail through this method and pass it down onto a Cranidos. Just make sure that Cranidos or Rampardos is female and Exu is male. Otherwise, you'll just hatch Exus. Looking for a female Cranidos was tons of fun, with the 12.5% chance to get one. Rampardos has one of the highest base attack stats in Pokemon history. Combined with the 100 BP Iron Tail and the recently acquired Stylium Z, it OHKOs Mimikyu with a 180 BP Corkscrew Crash. Rampardos only needed at least 110 attack for this. I didn't even need EV training and an attack increasing nature. Mimikyu definitely deserves the title of being the hardest totem fight in Pokemon Sun and Moon. I almost concluded that it wasn't doable. Oh, I forgot to mention that Cranidos is obtained from Olivia's shop in Konikoni City. It's also a Sun exclusive Pokemon, so this is actually not doable in Pokemon Moon, unless you trade it over. Kommo-o is the final totem Pokemon in the game. There's a big level jump from 33 to 45, thanks to the Aether Paradise scenario. Kommo-o has Protect in its moveset. Sadly, this brings some RNG to the table, and not even the strongest fairy move can one-shot through the Protect and Omni Boost. This means there is no guaranteed way to OHKO Kommo-o. You never know when it will use Protect. Just like Mimikyu, this can give Kommo-o a free turn to call upon an ally, but they are not as threatening this time around. Let's just ignore it for this video. Since Kommo-o is quadruple weak to Fairy, let's start with that Z move. For the Fairy types, I have one physical and one special Pokemon, Granbull and Primarina. These two can OHKO Kommo-o even at their respective lowest possible attacking stat. Granbull upgrades Player Ref and Primarina Moonblast with the Fairy Z to a 175 BP Twinkle Tackle. The Z move was so badly animated, Kommo-o laughed in our faces and jumped back to where it came from. Seriously though, just use a Fairy Z move. It deals so much damage that you can KO Kommo-o twice. I also found 3 Psychic types that can OHKO the Kommo-o. Kadabra and Espeon can make use of Future Sight to create a whopping 190 BP Shattered Psyche. They do need at least 129 special attack to make it work, but that's not hard to reach. Then there's also Starmie, who will surely move after the Kommo-o to make use of its analytic ability, which powers up moves by 30% if the user moves last. Starmie needs at least 108 special attack to power up its Psychic with the Psychium Z to get a 175 BP Shattered Psyche. And to close off, the Flynium Z also becomes available to the player after getting access to the Machamp ride before the trial. I did some calcs, but I couldn't find a Pokemon that could take out Kommo-o in one hit without EV training. You're better off by sticking with Fairy types. Let's round up the results. Out of the 8 totem Pokemon, 3 can be one-shot without too much effort. 3 others need EV training to reach their goal. One is basically a coin toss because of the Protect, and the final totem left is only one-shottable in Pokemon Sun with quite a complicated method. I thought Mimikyu would be the only totem to get away unscathed, but by researching more and more, I eventually found what I needed. Of course, I will make a follow-up video for the Ultra games. There are 3 different totem fights and a new one compared to Sun and Moon. The Pokédex also got expanded on, and there are more moves available through tutors. I hope there will be different options to one-shot the totems with, especially for the totem Mimikyu. It's time for me to go. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more Pokemon content like this. I also make community posts that you can participate in. I always try to put a hint in there of what the next video I upload will be. So if you see a post about the Ultra Totems, you know what's coming up. Until next time, have a good one.